Welcome back to the Menopause Coach Podcast with me, your host as always, Adele Johnston, the Menopause Coach and Educator, here to support you for the next 20 minutes or so inside this episode. Beautifully holding you and bringing a topic that I know many of you will have clicked to listen to this. If you're new here, hi, it is super beautiful to have you with us. And if you are a diehard TMC, the Menopause Coach Podcast follower, listener, fan, then as always, so much love to you for being here every single week and listening to these episodes. I know so many of you take such action on these. Sometimes you will drop me an email, sometimes you will message me on social media, and you'll share with me your biggest takeaways from these episodes. Please do that. I absolutely love to hear how you are downloading things, how you are then taking what we're talking about together here and implementing it into your own life or into your own business or the things that you need for your own health and happiness. So please do take this as an invitation right at the early stages of this episode to make sure that you do reach out and share with me. I read everything. So please do. I even go onto my own YouTube channel. If you aren't already subscribed there, then please come and subscribe over on the YouTube channel. It is a much fun. You get to watch me to deliver these episodes, right? If you want to, of course. I don't dance. I don't do anything crazy, but you can certainly follow along on there if you like to watch. So definitely come along, follow on the YouTube channel, and make sure you're subscribed here because you will get early access to these episodes. Yeah, before everyone else gets notified, you will get notified as soon as they drop and go live. So it goes without saying, every single week, I need to give you my little disclaimer. This is not medical advice, so please don't take it that way. Make sure that you lock in with your own medical team if there's something on your mind that you need to speak with, and an invitation to reach out if you have questions. So, something I hear so many times you wouldn't even believe it. Something I've said myself. In perimenopause, in menopause, women, I just want to feel like myself again. The amount of conversations that I have with you, and this is a direct quote, time and time again that comes out from our discussions. I definitely have said it too. Okay, because there is a certain point in the stage of our menopausal journey, of our life journey as women, where you genuinely do not recognize yourself. And I don't just mean in the physical form. That's a huge part of our self-identity. I mean also in how we are showing up, how we are speaking to ourselves without using verbal language. Yeah, the internal language tone that we have with ourselves that maybe sits up here in the mind or sits right here in the heart. And we're just like, this is not me anymore. We just truly do not recognize who we are. Your energy can change. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like mine still changes a lot. Body changes. I have been through a ride. Definitely with my own menopause journey, but also add grief into that. Yeah, this is coming up for the 2nd year anniversary. My 2nd year anniversary for my granny has been in June. We're coming up to the 2nd year anniversary for my dad passing. And then not long after that will be granddad's 2nd year anniversary. 3 family members in the space of just under 6 months. And at the time, you go into survival when something like that happens. Yeah, you're literally surviving day by day. And then grief properly hit me in 2025. And I would say that up until probably just a few months ago, I was still very, very, very heavily taken by grief. That had a massive impact on my physical body in so many different ways. Pains and ailments, changes to my body composition, storing more body fat. And it's not that grief causes body fat, but it's one of the factors of change. My skin health, my hair health, everything started to diminish over the course of 2025. And it's incredible when you show up for yourself and you can see the changes that have happened and then look at, right, what can I realistically do for myself today? Realistically, this is not about then, oh my gosh, I need like a whole big overhaul plan. It's like, what's the one thing? And this, when I'm working with my own menopausal clients, when I'm working with you, if you are one of my ladies, you will know this when I say the one thing. It is really beautifully bringing in the neuroscience elements, the psychology elements, but also the human factors elements of just making sure that we are truly connected to what we truly want and need in the moment. And it's not about having a massive plan of all these amazing and wonderful health things. It's about what's the one thing I can do for me today. Maybe you're experiencing sleep disturbances. Maybe your mood is so up and down. I remember this. I remember getting so frustrated with myself because I would go from being quite mellow to literally, like, I used to call it 0 to hero in a second, right? In a split millisecond. From the kids maybe fighting and arguing to going from being quite mellow to literally going, rah, like complete rage, complete uncontrollable rage. And that was not who I was. And I did not like that version of me. I couldn't control her. I could not suppress any of those emotions. It was incredible to look back on now, but at the time it was incredibly difficult. Confidence takes a hit, our sex life takes a hit, all the things that sometimes in our life we were like, this is like an amazing time for me. Yeah, the amazing sex that we can have, the amazing relationships and connections start to change, and not in a great way. Change can be really scary. And if you're starting to sit there and think, well, that's me, like, where did I go in all of this? Then I want to share with you, you haven't gone anywhere. Yeah, you haven't gone anywhere. You don't need to cope with everything. You don't need to keep everything perfect and in perfect order. Yeah, it's not about that now. It's not about where did you go. And so much of the conversation around menopause is about getting yourself back. It's like, where did I go? I want me back. Yeah. And I get that because we remember a past version of ourselves that we loved and actually we really enjoyed being. Energetically, mood, body, libido, confidence, all the things there are important to us. But what if we haven't actually lost ourselves? This is so important. Honestly, it came to me in a huge download. What if we're not actually supposed to get that version of us back? What if that woman that we had then, that we remember, has actually done her job? Hear me out. Instead of desperately trying to recreate her and get her back, maybe we're actually supposed to love her, thank her, release her, and let her go. Because maybe the life that worked for the woman that we were is no longer sustainable for the woman that we are becoming. The life we are meant to now lead. That's what I want to talk to you about today. What if that's what we're meant to know? I feel like the downloads that I have come at the right time for what we all need to hear as a collective in this space. Yeah, this isn't failure. We're getting information for each and every one of us. And if this is you, please, if you resonate with this, let me know. As a menopause coach, as a menopause educator, but also as your podcast host, I love to know that this is resonating with you, because look at it this way. The more that we connect and resonate as a collective, the more these information downloads become more than information. They become our blueprint. And before I go any further, yes, there are very real hormonal changes happening through perimenopause, through menopause, into postmenopause. And I'm not suggesting that every difficult thing that any one of us or any one of you experiences in this journey of our midlife time is all about spiritual awakenings. Yeah, I do believe that there's a big part of that. The symptoms are real. They are physical, they are biological, they are sociological, they are all the logicals, yeah? Bio, psycho, social. Psychology is a huge part of that. Our bodies change, our sleep changes, our mood changes, our cognition and our brain changes, yeah? The pathways in the brain change during menopause. Your white and grey matter changes. Your brain literally changes in menopause. And we don't talk openly enough about this, the neuroscience element of it. We deserve all this information and support. And that is why I bring these episodes to you. It's important to me that you have this information, because then you can make your informed choices with it. But I think something else happens alongside all of those changes. Yeah, and I'm walking this pathway with you. I'm living it too. Things that we've maybe tolerated for years can suddenly become so bloody intolerable to us. Yeah, the pace we lived at, the rat race that we are in, or have been in, the amount that we have carried and shouldered, right? It's not a wonder we end up with really sore shoulders, necks, and backs. Relationships that have been draining us, that we've just put up with, we've just pacified, we've just appeased those relationships, but they drain us. The way we speak to ourselves, the expectations that we're constantly trying to keep up the meeting of. Yeah, the number of people that we're trying to just keep happy in our life because it's anything for an easy life, anything for a quiet life. And sometimes our interpretation of this can be that, what's wrong with me? Like, what is it with me? I'm so annoyed all the time. I'm way less patient. I'm so emotional and, I just can't do this. I get stressed and anxious and I've never been stressed and anxious. All these things start to happen. But here's the question that I've started asking when I've taken a slower pace in my day-to-day. What if not being able to cope with an unsustainable life is not failure? What if it's an awakening information that we need to be aware of? Maybe you've been decades and decades in appeasement, anything for an easy life, continuing, with work, with the kids, with relationships, friendships, parents, home life, finances, your body. You've constantly been in and out of different diets. Maybe you've got a really turmoilish relationship with yourself and food, and there's so much in there, right? So much in there. Everything is an expectation. And amongst all of that, we've kind of lost ourselves in those decades of putting all of those things first. We've come bottom. Yeah, we've become incredibly good at being bottom. We've coped with it. We've pushed through. Yes, we are strong. We have pushed through. Holy hell, does that then hit hard when we can no longer continue like that? We've survived things. We've built things. We love unconditionally those people that we love unconditionally, right? But maybe you don't need to become better at tolerating your life. Maybe I need to ask you this. What are you tolerating in your life right now? Because there's an exhaustion that links to acceptance, toleration and acceptance. And this is where I think things get really interesting for us, because how many women have spent lives becoming more consciously aware or unconsciously navigating life. Think yourself, when do you lift your head? When do you take moments for you? Okay, this isn't about being vain because you want to go and spend some time and energy and money and all of the things on you, on your physical body, on your emotional body, on your mental and emotional spiritual self. I think about success quite a lot because I've shared in past episodes that I've lost relationships with other women. Some of them were friends, some of them were colleagues and acquaintances, some of them have been family. And I've lost those relationships with those women because, quote unquote, your success triggers me, you trigger me. And it's quite incredible to sit back and think that if I wasn't in my physical body, my emotional self, my mental self, and my spiritual self all connected, yeah, I don't have it figured out. Please don't think that I've got it like, topped. I don't have it topped, but I'm aware. And I recognize that that is projection, that is holding up a mirror to those women when they recognize that they don't have that connection. They don't see their own successes. And it's quite incredible, when we feel that level of confidence in ourselves, how things start to evolve and up level for us and make those around us feel very uncomfortable. Not that we're difficult. We just hold up a mirror to them. And this is quite an interesting space to sit in. I don't believe that we're ever exhausted from life. I believe that we're exhausted from performing and being that acceptability in life of others, right? Appeasement. And that brings me to something that I talk a lot about: self-love, self-care, self-acceptance. We use those words quite interchangeably, but actually when we think of self-care or self-love in that space, I've realized something huge. You can't always tell whether something is self-care by looking at someone's behavior or what they're doing. Just because someone is turning up for a massage doesn't mean that they're actually in self-care. Two women can make exactly the same choices for themselves, but for completely different reasons. Exercise, for example, that can be self-care for many of us, but it can also be punishment for the food that we've eaten the night before. Losing weight or losing body fat can come from wanting to improve your health for the now, but in the long term. But it can also come from believing that you're not acceptable until you're in a smaller body. Societal norms and expectations. Makeup, right? I love to put makeup on, but I also love to not have makeup on. I find that it's part of creativity for me. I like to play around. I've got blue mascara, right? I take myself back to my teenage years when I found this in America. Blue mascara excites me. I'm like, this is my creative side. It's my fun side. But it's also expression. It's also being makeup free on days where I'm just like, I don't need to perform for anyone. It's like my rebellious me comes out. But actually there were years that I wore makeup as armor. It was how I felt confident. So we have to think about all of these things. Yeah. How much do you look at yourself and think, am I accepted by society the way I look? But maybe the question isn't about society. It's, do you love and accept yourself for how you look? I think it's really important that we talk about these things. I really do. Because in a blink of an eye, everything can change. We age naturally. It's a gift. It's a blessing. I see age as this blessing that we get to have because my dad never made it past 66 years old. He was so young, and it wasn't even expected that he would go that young. It was wild when we think of it. And yet we fight aging so much. We really do. Men are expected to just, oh, you're like a fine wine. As you mature and you age, you get better. And with us women, it's expected. I find myself caught up in it. I dye my hair to get rid of the greys. Yeah, they're greying right now and I'm okay with it. But equally, I feel better when I don't have them and I cover them up. Yeah. For some of you, you might think, but Adele, you don't need to dye your hair. I want to. But I don't need to then be going and, for me personally, putting in hair extensions. But for many of you, you may look at yourself and think, actually, I feel more confident when I have my hair extensions in. And I love that for you. And there is no judgment. We do these things for us. It's all part of our confidence and self-care. This is choice. But sometimes we still sit in the fascinating questions, of it all. And it becomes around what you need, what is actually needed for you. Because self-acceptance and self-love, it doesn't mean giving up on things. It doesn't mean you have to just let your hair go all grey because it's like, well, I meant to do this for self-acceptance and self-love. It's about choosing what is right and feeling good for you. You're not needing to fix yourself. Nothing is broken. It's almost like we've signed this invisible contract as women where it's like, I'm going to have to appease and perform and do all these things. But the contract that you've made with yourself was never about that when you came here, right? On purpose, with purpose. I want you to just sit with this episode. I invite you to. And I would love for you to love yourself. And I know for some of you, you might think it's easier said than done. Start with thanking yourself, because when we start to thank ourselves and release the heaped up energy that we're holding, that is where love can be born from. So if you're listening to this somewhere in perimenopause right now, or menopause or beyond in postmenopause, and you're thinking that you've lost yourself, maybe you haven't. Maybe you're meeting yourself without some of the things that used to define you through societal expectations. And that can be frightening because you've never been there before. Because if you're no longer that woman that society says is acceptable, then who are you? And if you're not that woman that everyone depends on for everything, then who are you? And if youth isn't part of your identity because now we have some wrinkles, then who are you? And if your body doesn't look like the way it did when you were in your 20s, then who are you? These questions are partial evidence that each and every one of us is asking, but when we look at the information and the data that gives us, maybe this is evidence that we are becoming. And perhaps that's the invitation of this stage of life. Not how do I get her back? Not how do I change who I am, but who am I now? Who am I becoming? So I'm going to leave this one with you here. You haven't lost yourself in menopause. You are simply being gifted another roadmap now. Go and be true to you. Love her. Thank yourself. Love your body. Release the things that are not serving you. Because you are enough. You were enough for that chapter. You are enough as you go into your next. You don't owe the rest of your life to preserving who you were in the past. Yeah, self-love isn't an age thing. It's something that we get to learn and show up for ourselves with. How do I get myself back? Is not the question I want you to leave here asking. I want you to ask, who do I get to become now? And as always, if you've enjoyed this episode, please do go share it with at least one other woman in your life. Thank you for being here, and I will see you next week.